Thank you so much for being on the programme today. It's been utterly unbearable. What's your reaction to what we've heard?
Yeah, no, unbearable is the word. Harrowing and intensely distressing for the whole town, for the whole community, but most obviously for the families involved. Listening to the impact statements being read out in court this afternoon just got to the nub of just how horrific the atrocity was in the town back in July. How on earth the families have coped these last 6 months. My heart goes out to them because the bravery, the strength they've shown is just off the scale, and I really don't know how they've coped. The support that's been offered to them from the town has been immense, but nothing could ever be enough to allow them to come to terms with what they've gone through. I'm sure that support will continue, but yes, I think today's a day for remembering the girls and for putting our hearts out to the families involved here.
Yeah, you talked there about the impact statements that were read out, and as you say, they were absolutely extraordinary. The resilience that they've shown in the face of the horror, the worst thing that could possibly have happened. Somebody who didn't hear them because he wasn't in court was the killer, who was ejected from court twice after saying that he wasn't feeling well. Should he have been forced to stay and listen to the full sentencing and the full impact statements today?
It was an absolute disgrace, not just the not guilty plea and then changing the plea on the first day of the trial, but the attitude of the behaviour, the utter shameful lack of remorse that we've seen today. For me, this just exacerbates the pain and the suffering and the distress that the families have gone through. We saw the parents of one of the little girls who was murdered shouting out "coward" as he was pretending to be taken ill in court, and that just really does kind of point to precisely what he is. He's not just a violent, murderous thug. He's a coward, and I am hopeful that he never gets to see the light of day again, that he will indeed, as the judge has said, spend the rest of his life behind bars. I'm well aware that he was 9 days short of being 18 years old, and that prevents him being given a full life tariff. But if that prevents him from actually staying behind bars for the rest of his life, then I would actually want to see a change in the law to make sure that that never happens again.
It feels that there are two really important things to discuss here. The firstly about the forcing somebody to listen to their sentencing, and secondly about how young people are tried and sentenced when they commit crimes like this. So just on the first one, laws to force criminals to attend their sentencing are currently going through the report stage in the Commons. I mean, would you like to see individuals like this forced to be in court, to listen and to face up to what they've done?
100% I would. The so-called, the name given is obviously Olivia's Law, named after Olivia Pratt-Corbell, who was similarly killed, and we saw in that case that the murderer was refusing to show up for the sentencing and the hearing. Fully support the changes in the law that need to be brought in, because as we've seen today, some of the people that are perpetrating horrific, unspeakable crimes are then rubbing salt in the wounds of the victims and their families by not attending the court. So yeah, that change in the law has my total and complete support.
And then just on the second point that you were making about how, because he was under 21 at the time, your understanding is that that's why he couldn't be given a full life term, even though he's been sentenced to 52 years minimum. Do you think we should look again then at the way young people are treated in the courts when they commit the worst kind of crime?
I don't want children to be treated as adults, but at the same time, this was an adult in all but name. He was 9 days short of his 18th birthday. He was planning this on a premeditated basis. It would not surprise me if part of that premeditation was that he decided to commit the atrocity, the multiple murders, in the week prior to his 18th birthday, purely to avoid a full life tariff. And I think in circumstances such as this, exceptional circumstances, then exceptional circumstances demand an exception to the law. And if the law cannot be resolved to have a full life tariff in this case, then yes, we do need to look again to see what can be done to make sure that similar crimes that may be taking place in the future do not result in similar lenient sentences here.
Now, when you were first elected as the MP for Southport earlier last year, you could have never imagined that something like this would have happened to the community that you represent. What's it been like?
One of my colleagues down in Parliament said to me that this was almost a baptism of fire as an MP, but my response was that something like this would be completely unprecedented. I was in the job for 3 weeks, but it wouldn't have mattered if I'd have been in the job for 30 years, because unprecedented is still unprecedented. And I think that just shows that, firstly, it's really good that, on the one hand, this doesn't happen day in, day out in a civilised country. But it also shows, I think, just the nature of which the Southport community have assisted here. I'm only the MP. The MPs come and MPs go. But the people here in Southport, it's really been on them to show how much solidarity, how much support, how much of that supportive nature when the community rose up as one to say, what happened on the 29th of July does not represent us. And the peaceful vigils and the way that the community as a whole responded, I think that's to be commended. And obviously this evening, we do need to keep in mind that today is not a day for jubilation or celebration. It's just another milestone on the process by which the town, the community and the families themselves can move on in their stages of grief.
Yeah, it's as you say, it has been a credit, the way so many people have responded. It's natural, of course, when something as awful as this happens, that there's a political response. But I just wondered, just finally, if you have a message for politicians today.
Well, I think the message to politicians is that, to reiterate maybe what the Prime Minister said Tuesday morning, calling for the public inquiry and setting that up, there's been multiple elements of state failure over the past 5 years, from the first intervention with the Prevent programme and Rudakubana going back to 2019. And so my message to my fellow politicians and to all aspects of the state is, let's get to grips with this and let's find out exactly what went wrong in the 5 years prior to July and make sure that never happens again.